Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. My name is Don Meadowcroft. How am I doing? I'm doing fine, thank you very much. How are you all doing? I hope we're doing well on this Monday night. I hope it's going to come out tonight. It depends how motivated I am to edit this video. Because we're talking about Liverpool and what is going on at the club. And as a neutral, I don't really know them as well as someone looking from the inside out. I am looking from the outside in. I'm joined by a Liverpool fan, Cal. Cal, how are we doing?
Hello, mate. You okay? Not so bad.
Yeah, we have a long time no see and gone back a long way. And I thought, why not get one of my mates to talk about Liverpool? Because it's a lot easier than any other club that you know. How long have you supported Liverpool for?
My whole life, really. It's all passed down the family from, great granddads, and to my dad. So, 26 years, not knowing anything different.
To give your own age. There's a big thing on the other channel that I'm on that everyone thinks I'm 18 years old. And I was on a Blackpool podcast the other day with 40-year-olds thinking I was 12 years old. And we beat him 1-0, so I got the final laugh.
That's what you want, mate.
So we'll start with how the season's gone on so far. I've written the sort of fixtures so far because games are coming thick and fast. The World Cup's coming soon and it is squeezing every single game. Like Napoli's coming tomorrow. You've had 3 draws, I believe, against Fulham, Palace and Everton. 2 wins against Newcastle and Bournemouth and a loss against United. What do you rate the season so far? 9 points out of 6 games.
It's not great. It's nowhere near where I think the majority of our fan base thought we'd be. I think from the summer, it was a really strange summer, to be fair, because obviously you lose Sadio Mane and then the new signings come in. And I think we left it late for a midfielder. Thankfully, we got one. But if you look at it from the point of where we started the season with the signings we had, I'm not entirely sure I was 100% confident going into it. I did think we'd get a lot more points out of the opening, 5 or 6 than we did. But I had a few worries early doors. I was thinking, with Darwin Núñez, how the system might change around him. And, with Fabio Carvalho as well, how he would get into the squad. And so, I think Fulham on the opening day, I think I was one of many, probably including the 11 that started the game, that underestimated the life out of them. And they turned up and, did a right job on us, and we was lucky to get something from that. The Palace game, I thought we actually really improved. I thought we was much better, but just couldn't get that final ball through and get the goal to win it. But then you go into the 2 games after that, it was back to normal. It was like go from battering a team one week and then a really late winner that, brings back the Anfield glory days. So it's the Man United loss was massive. That was a gut-wrenching feeling. That was especially with how things were with them at the time. Another one. I think that's something that I'll speak about today is I get this overwhelming sense of arrogance, and I've had it for a while now with this team. And I've never felt that way about Liverpool. But I think the biggest point I would make about this season so far is arrogance has been,
I think the Palace game, the change in system to allow Núñez into the team, it will take time because he's a young player, and the United game was just a perfect storm for United. I think that the fact that they, had a couple of signings just beforehand, I think you had a couple of injuries just before it as well. It's at United. Everyone expected them to lose. Like you say, a bit of arrogance maybe on your behalf, thinking you're going to batter him even though you only had 2 points in the first 2 games. But the Fulham game as well, I mean, they're basically a Premier League side last season in the Championship, so I wouldn't take anything away from home from there. Now we talk about Darwin Núñez, the sort of signings that you've made so far. I've got them written down here: Núñez, Carvalho, Ramsey, who's not featured yet, I don't believe, and Arthur Melo, who's on the bench against Everton. Is there anybody? Because I've also included the signings that you've not made. Do you believe that's a sign of poor planning, or is it a sign of the sort of the players that you have in the team right now? Obviously, you lost Sadio Mane, but apart from Núñez, what do you think? How do you think the signings have been so far? And do you think you should make another signing or 2?
I think we were all pretty naive going into this season because I think a lot of us thought that we did need a midfielder. I think that was something that was addressed last summer, never mind this one. But I think the way that we performed last season with the midfield that we had, not knowing that Thiago would get injured so early into this season, I think we were all thinking we've got the striker to, replace Mane in the attacking line. So I didn't think. I think we all thought, nah, it'll be all right. I think we'll be okay with this midfield. Give it one last year, chance it one more time, and then go ahead in the summer, get Jude Bellingham, get a player of that caliber. But it's just all unravelled in that perfect storm. Like Thiago goes down in 2 minutes, you think, oh my God. And then it all just comes from there because one leads to 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Keita, nowhere near it. He's not even been added to the Champions League team.
Oh, is he not really? Wow.
So, yeah, I think for the signings, I was initially really excited because I thought Fabio Carvalho, I thought it was great business at the time as well, and Fulham weren't too happy about it, which shows something, doesn't it? And then I thought he might feature in the 3 in the midfield. We saw that against Everton for the first time. Didn't work too well. But it's a derby, isn't it? It's one of those things. But Nunes, I was really happy that we signed him. Watched the 2 Benfica games last year, and then afterwards tried to just find a few highlights from Benfica games, see how he was doing. And obviously he had a great season. And so I was delighted to sign him. I thought we needed an enigmatic striker, a number 9 to battle it out with City if that was how it was going to end up this season. So the signings for me, I was happy with. I think it's always a case you always want more. And I think Liverpool fans we're allowed to do that at this point because it's just seemed that there's always, every time something good happens, something bad happens as well. And you think, why haven't we sorted all of the things out that we needed to? It's like, oh, you've done this really great signing, but it's like, but there's people out there. And then the way it was all marketed all summer, Schumany, and then Bellingham and things like that, you think, if we really wanted a player, we should be in a position to be able to go and get him, snap him up.
Exactly.
So I do start to worry that it's not actually just the owners that's the problem with this transfer policy. And, it's been sort of documented on Twitter now, spoken about among the fan base, that Jurgen might actually be the one going in and saying, I don't need a midfielder. I'm okay. And then he comes out in his interview and says, maybe you're right. I actually do need a midfielder. So
yeah, because he looked at last summer as well, like last season, and was it 2 seasons ago where they had the defensive issues with all the centre backs, and then
2 years,
just out of nowhere you bought 2 or 3, and he didn't even end up playing Ben Davis. He's been like a running joke in the group chat that we're in, that it doesn't exist as a human being. Never mind a footballer. I think he's up in Scotland now. Not the Tottenham one either.
Yeah,
I mean, he talks about the owners FSG, and I've written a few things down because obviously I don't know much about the FSG, because I know that they have this sort of rule where they have to stick to a sort of a wage structure, which doesn't seem to make much sense, because looking on Twitter today, Liverpool had more revenue than Manchester United ever in the Premier League, and Man United are probably one of the top 2 most global sides in the world in terms of revenue, them and Real Madrid. So it shows the size of Liverpool, but it also shows the sort of lack of funding compared to it. Because look at how much United spend a season. They've spent 220 already this season, and already looking to spend more on De Jong in the January. So they continue to spend less compared to the sort of revenue, and the global reach is something that Liverpool don't need to even think about, because when you look at teams with a wage structure, say in the Championship, they have to stick to that because of FFP, where it doesn't really make sense for Liverpool. Is that the sort of right sort of consensus with the Liverpool fans, or is it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a weird one, really, and I think that's why there is such a divide, and FSG outers and top reds and all that. It all stems from FSG started out in the way that they came into fruition with us. They helped us massively. We was in real trouble with our previous owners. And then when they came in, obviously got rid of all our debts, got us right back where we wanted to be, and then started to bring managers in that was turning the tide for the club, turning the fortunes around. Jurgen Klopp comes in, an amazing signing in itself. And he's been backed. They've backed him. I think it's the annoying thing for the fans is we look around at clubs, not even clubs like City that are, state-owned clubs like that. You look at other clubs that are trying to compete and trying to get to that level with similar ownership models that spend without needing to sell. And even at this point now, what baffles me is I understood it when we'd got to the first Champions League final under Klopp in Kiev, and Coutinho goes around that point. So we get a massive amount of money in, and then bring Alisson in. And Van Dijk came in that season.
Yeah.
Alisson the following season after what Karius did. And it's like, on paper, they're the signings you should be making anyway. If you've got a real issue with your goalkeeper, right, we need a top keeper to replace him. So that it all happens, but then there's someone on your shoulder saying, "Yeah, but you only did that because you sold Coutinho for 146 million or whatever it was." And then I think that's the overriding thing for the fans, is that there's got to be a point where you just say, "I know we haven't sold anyone this summer or made a massive amount of money. We need to sort this problem out. So let's go and identify someone and do it." I think that's a worry of mine as well. I don't know if it's much to do with Michael Edwards, because Julian Ward seems to get the Darwin Núñez deal done in quick fashion. But just the organisation on that side of things, it's like, how can we go 2 seasons now thinking, "Oh, we'll drag every last bead of sweat out of Jordan Henderson and James Milner." And God bless them, they've been great players for us and great servants to the club. But it comes to a point where you can't be starting those lads in 2022. It's not even fair on them, because it makes their legacy, dents their legacy, doesn't it? When they're having performances against midfields that are overrunning them, it's just making fans bitter, and it's not really what they deserve, to be honest.
Like you say, you have a midfield of Jordan Henderson, who's got no legs, Milner, who's at the end of his life at Liverpool, Keita, who has no legs and just hasn't existed at Liverpool, basically, Ox, who, Jesus Christ, Curtis Jones, he's got premature legs, essentially.
Thiago, the biggest one.
Thiago, yeah, exactly.
It's like we want to have this problem. I've said this before. It's like this new fella who's come in, Arthur. Obviously you see highlights, you think, wow, what a player he has been and could be again. But then you look at the injury record on him.
Is it bad? Is it bad?
It's not great anyway. You think, what are we doing? There's got to be a player out there, and that's my worry is, it's always been Bob on. It's always been, why have we signed him? Who the hell's Sadio Mane? He's done a few goals in the Prem. Mo Salah at Roma, and you're like, oh, right. And then they become world beaters.
Yeah, who's this guy from Hull? And you're like, oh, right. Okay.
But at this point, it seems that we're always struggling, and it's always like either we buy a player literally because we've played against him and he's played well against us, or it always just comes across panicky in some form. And
that's what Arthur feels like. It feels like you really need someone now. Come on, Klopp. And I mean, you did say that obviously Klopp's took every last cent out of every single player, and for the last 5 or 6 years, he's got everything out of them. Do you think it's like sort of end of the cycle for them? And this will be like the last question, because you can't obviously go 100% all the time, and obviously City are almost seeming to be in like third gear at the minute, and still Haaland's scoring 9 in 5, which is insane. Do you think that? What are the expectations this season for you? And do you think that you've played above your expectations over the few seasons because of Klopp? And do you think you've found your level now, or do you think you're slightly below it?
I think it's really tough. I don't think it's a question that anyone really knows the answer to, because one argument could be that Klopp has made these players, ran them to the ground and got us to that point last year where we nearly did something special. But then also, you watch them every week and you think, no, they're really good. The system's great, and they all are really good players. And maybe it's just not ticking this year. Maybe they're tired. You look at Andy Robertson. Like, I'm so glad he was benched at the weekend. I've never wanted to say that in my life. And I see all these Twitter accounts. They drive me mad with like Simicast, who I love to bits, but they put him in their best 11s, and I'm like,
nah, come on.
What can you do?
It's 12-year-olds on Twitter.
Yeah. And so it's like players like him, Trent, they've started the season. They had that Bournemouth game. It's unfortunate that it happened, really. I'd rather we won 1-0 against Bournemouth so that people can't go back to it and say, oh, it was brilliant on that day. They've just not started well. And it's, things like that happen. Like when we had the injuries in the season 2 years ago when Van Dijk went first, when there was a good number of them, I think we hit about 8 injuries that year, and it's pretty similar this year. When we hit around 7 or 8 around the first team, that's when it starts really affecting, and it's every walk of the pitch. I've been speaking to fellow fans this past weekend after the derby and stuff like that, and my big thing is Canate, Thiago, and obviously Jota's back now. If you can get just that little semi-spine of a team that obviously Jota might not feature every week, but the other two will. And if you can get them back in the team, I think the confidence that'll give the players around them might just take the edge off. You've got Mo Salah playing at right wing back. That's what he's
Was
been.
he?
That's how it seemed in every game. When it gets to the point where we've conceded, like we need to sort things out. We're getting overrun on that side. The targeting Trent. He's at right wing back. He's here, and then you're thinking, well, where's the long ball going to go to when we get it? Down the wing, the channels. It's tough. It's all a bit messy at the minute. I think what I'd like to achieve this year is obviously you want to try and win a trophy, but I think it's going to be a really strange Premier League. I think this year because, like you say, City they're nowhere near where they are, but they're grinding out results and drawing a couple. I think because the teams were so robotic and like inhuman the past few years, this is what it should be like.
Yeah,
and it's weird because it's like this, and so it's a credit to both teams, but it might just be other teams strengthening and having a right good go at the same time. Look at some of the players.
It does seem like the most competitive Premier League in a lot of years, and I know that I said this in the last video. I know that City have won 4 of the last 5 seasons, which may seem like almost like a farmers league in terms of like because that's what PSG do. But any team in the Premier League could beat any team, except apart from Bournemouth. But that's what makes it so competitive. The quality of the Premier League is all time highest, and you can't have 7 players injured. Any team can't have any 7 players injured, and that's why we're sort of seeing the sort of holes in the Liverpool team, and it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. Essentially, this video is like I'm being a bit of a hypocrite, contradicting myself here. But like you say, once those 2 or 3 players come in, key players like Canate, because bless Joe Gomez, he looks like out of his depth at the minute. He looks like a player who's not played in a year.
Yeah.
Once you get that sorted, you will get back to the team that you were previously under Klopp. And do you think top 4 is realistic?
Yeah, I think that's got to be the first thing now. I think we should calm down. Sitting with popcorn watching Man City games. I think we should just relax and focus on ourselves now, and just try and get as many points as we can. Because, like you say, I look at some teams this year. There was teams in the past, few years when we was at our absolute pomp, and I was thinking, we'll beat Palace, we'll beat Newcastle, we'll beat these teams, and they're tough teams. They're really tough teams these days. So it's by far for me. You look at when I'm watching neutral games on the weekend, I think, wow, the quality compared to the last few years is shot right up, and credit to them, and it'll make it a much more competitive, enjoyable league. So first things first, get some wins under our belt, get in and around that zone at the top, and then it gets interesting, doesn't it? You get to Christmas time, and after that, and this year.
We got the World Cup before then as well, so that could be a saving grace if it's going poorly. Or saving, or like a bit of a curse if it's going well for you. So I think that'll be it for the video. Cal, any final words on Liverpool this season?
Just try to start winning games, boys.
Is there anything that you'd like to plug as well?
Not just yet. I'm about to start putting a bit of content over on TikTok. I think that's the next move for me. My @ is Cal Talks Football. And so there's a couple of little silly videos on there at the minute. But the content's going to get better, I'm sure. Yeah,
I'm sure it will. I'll put it in the description as well. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Just a quick one on Liverpool. I'm glad that somebody else is on here talking about it, because I spent 5 minutes on Wikipedia beforehand thinking of questions about them. But I hope it goes well for them this season. I don't have any affiliation with them. I haven't actually named the team I support on this channel yet, but it isn't any Premier League side, so I am coming in this with a neutral perspective. So I hope you all guys like the video. Please subscribe, comment below if you got any questions, and like the video, and I'll see you soon. Peace out, guys. Cheers.